You're listening to Bigger Than Belief, real stories about real faith with real people whose belief is unbelievable. I'm your host, Adam Duxter. Thanks for joining us once more on Bigger Than Belief. Today is Thursday, December 18th, and today we have Twin Cities radio royalty in the house. It is four letters that have been synonymous with faith-based music and programming in the Twin Cities, KTIS. For more than 75 years now, 76, they've been a staple in this community. And during that time, they've really done something that, if you look at it, no other faith radio station in the United States that is local has been able to do, which is to find significant, sustained success, not just in a faith realm, but even beating out secular stations as far as market share. On this episode, we sit down with KTIS station manager Matthew Deane to talk about the bottom, really getting to the bottom of KTIS's sustained success, as well as the future for Christian and faith music. And then we're also going to have a little bit of fun talking about Christmas music, because they are all Christmas all the time over at KTIS right now. Those stories and more coming up next with Matthew Deane. We are now joined by a very special guest, KTIS station manager Matt Deane. Matt, thank you so much for joining us in it has to be one of the busiest times of year for KTIS.
Christmas is a very busy time. The end of the year, there's always a lot going on. We love it though. It's an amazing opportunity to be a part of a lot of great things in the Twin Cities. But yeah, in a couple of weeks, we're all gonna take a long Christmas nap, and we're gonna be feeling a little bit better coming the new year. So.
It was cool. We got a chance to go see the building and learn a little bit about the history of KTIS and of the station. But for people who are listening and they live in the Twin Cities and maybe they don't listen to KTIS, or they do, but they don't know the history, it's been around for forever.
Yep.
How did KTIS get its start here in the Twin Cities?
Yeah, it's a fun story. So think late 1940s. I mean, it was obviously a much different world. Technology and entertainment and all that looked very different. So in late 1947, 1948, a group of people led by a name that's familiar to a lot of people, whether you're a person of faith or not, Billy Graham, had a vision to take what was, at the time, really the latest and greatest technology, which was radio, brand new, to share the gospel. And that was his vision and passion. And so in February of 1949, KTIS AM went on the air. And in May of that same year, KTIS FM went on the air here in the Twin Cities. And so it's really a remarkable thing in the radio landscape for one radio station to be one format, owned by the same organization. It doesn't really ever happen. And so for us to be telling people about Jesus in the Twin Cities on 98.5, for that length of time is remarkable. So yeah, 76 plus years, a lot of history in the Twin Cities. So.
And I was reading the early days. I mean, it's not what it is now, right? Or, it's a contemporary music and it's a nice mix. It was like organ music and sermons. I mean, how has the content shaped over those years?
Yeah, so there were times where it was, like you said, what we would consider maybe more church music, different teaching programs, which now have shifted to our faith radio network on KTIS AM and all the stations that they are on here in the Twin Cities and beyond. But over time, contemporary Christian music has become, if I can just say it, better. When I grew up a church kid, a Christian school kid, a Christian music kid, and looking back, I have fond memories of some of that music, but it wasn't necessarily the best music that was out there. And over the years, over the last, I would say 15 years, the music it's come a long way, and it competes with anything and everything out there. So it's been amazing to watch that, and it's been fun to be a part of the journey on the inside.
I mean, you talk about competing and competing, I'm guessing you're talking about with secular music, so, popular music, top 40.
Yep.
The numbers that I found are just staggering. This is a couple of years back, but in 2023, we're talking about the top market share,
Yep.
over 11%. It's more than double, anyone else. For our folks that are listening and they don't recognize, that concept or market share, I mean, how significant is that for KTIS to be pulling in those kind of numbers?
Yeah, it was quite a day. That was, I believe it was April of 2023. And when we found out, I literally thought the data was incorrect. KTIS has a great record of a lot of people listening to the station. 76 years of history has a lot to do with that, and the team that we have has a lot to do with that. But being number one is something that's pretty rare for a Christian music radio station to be the number one in the city. So that was a pretty fun day when we found that out, and then the next month it happened again, and the next month it happened again. And so for most of a year and a half, KTIS was the number one radio station in the Twin Cities, which we don't live and die by that. But what thrills us is the thought that more people are hearing songs and stories about Jesus here in the Twin Cities. In a place where every city in America needs to hear more about Jesus, but the Twin Cities, we do too. And so that was a remarkable thing. And so still amongst the top radio stations, there's some really good radio stations in the Twin Cities. So the fact that KTIS can be in that mix, we're thrilled, and it just goes to the dedication of our team and our staff to do the work that they do to make that happen every day.
And I mean, I'm looking as I'm doing the research, you talk about not many, faith-based or Christian stations can compete in that way. Only two others in I think it was the top 50 markets, were even in the top 5 in terms of market share. And those were not even close to number one. And you look at, maybe it's, the fact that we're in the Midwest or we're in the Twin Cities. Des Moines, I think their number was 0.2% market share. Milwaukee was 0.1%. And of course, KTIS is at that time was over 11%. What do you credit that to? Is it just the consistency? Is it the message that you're bringing? What is it?
Ultimately, I think people are looking for hope. Since the beginning of time, people were looking for hope. I really feel since 2020, all that we went through, all that our city went through, but even now, the division and the things we see around us, people need hope. And so it is amazing to have a place where people can come. Frankly, our heart is that whether they have a faith background or not, that they would feel welcome and that they would feel encouraged when they listen to KTIS. And so the team is just incredibly amazing. I count it a privilege to run with these friends every day. Some of the top on-air people in the country, I believe, in our format or in any format. Behind the scenes team, everybody, top to bottom, just it's an amazing team. So you take a great on-air team, our dedication to being in the community. We do our best to market, to let people know we exist. We're grateful for listeners who put a KTIS window sticker on the back of their car so that maybe somebody else would find out. And so it's not any one thing, but all of that, plus, we really believe 76 years and the shoulders that we stand on from the people who, from Billy Graham forward, who have led the ministry of KTIS, has been a really great thing and something we consider a part of our success.
You talked about just a moment ago, being in the community. I'm looking at all the events, that KTIS does. One just happened, the Shoebox Showdown. Yeah. Over 7,000 shoe boxes. Yep. What was the heart behind that event? What happened, and how does that work when you're trying to do a community event like that?
Yeah, we have a great team, our on the street team. We have 3 people who are dedicated on our team to making sure KTIS is in the community. It is so important for us to not only be broadcasting what we do, sending the message out, but literally being with our listeners and being with people who've never heard of KTIS before. And so specifically with the Shoebox Showdown, it's a great partnership we've had for years with Operation Christmas Child, which is obviously a worldwide organization. And here in the Twin Cities, we've been working with them in different ways for a really long time. And so this gives us a chance on one day. We encourage all of our listeners to either come to one of the locations that's a drop-off point, churches around the Twin Cities, or, they've used technology now to make it possible for you to digitally pack a shoebox. And so it's just a great day. It's a celebration of helping children around the world not only receive a Christmas gift, but also learn more about Jesus. That's what the Shoebox Showdown is really all about, is from the Twin Cities to wherever they land around the world, telling people about Jesus. And that's just, one of, by the end of 2025, our On the Street team will have been at over 100 events around the Twin Cities. And it's a really important part of what we do every day.
How important is that for you, even in your faith, to know that you're not just talking about it, but you're meeting people where they're at?
Yeah, it is. It's really important. It's a big deal to not just say one thing and let somebody else figure it out, but it's putting your faith into action. And so that's one way we do that. And so we're grateful for the opportunity to encourage that. And we think that our hope is that it fosters the desire for more people to say, well, I was part of the Shoebox Showdown, or I helped, I brought, canned goods to a concert. We were doing a drop off there. And hopefully it continues to spur that idea of more people doing more good in the Twin Cities.
One thing that I find very fascinating about KTIS is the relationship that the viewers or the listeners have with the station as a whole, because it feels like you talk about these personalities. It feels like when the personalities talk, people listen, and it's almost like they feel like they know these personalities. How important is that to what you all do, the relationship with the listener? And how do you cultivate that?
Yeah, it's critical. There are so many different places in 2025 where you can hear music. You can, in a second, any song you want to hear, you pull out your phone, you go online, you can hear that song. So what differentiates KTIS? It's the relationship that we have. It's what we're doing, frankly, in between the songs, the stories that are shared, the encouragement that's there. I've worked at a handful of radio stations, mainly around the Midwest, but I've never worked at a place like KTIS, and the relationship that our on-air team, so Keith, Pam, and Keegan in the morning, Jen in the middle of the day, Andy in the afternoon as you're going home, and then Lindsay in the evenings. I've never worked at a place like this. We end up in the summertime when there's a lot less snow on the ground than there is today. We have sticker stops all over the Twin Cities where, we want to get stickers on the back of cars so that more people can hear about KTIS. But we also bring the on-air team out. And it turns into it's like a family reunion where, I've been listening to you for, 10 years, 15 years, and now you get to put the voice to a face. And, we have the opportunity to pray with our listeners and encourage them. And so we really feel like going forward with technology and just how things are changing, it's that relationship that's going to keep KTIS strong in the community and really differentiate us from all of those other places where you can find the music that you like.
You talked about your background a little bit just there for a moment, just being on this team. You and your story is kind of fascinating to me as well. For the people listening and watching, how did you get to be where you're at, where you're on, not just on the ship, but you're kind of guiding the ship at this point, right?
Yeah, I pinch myself on a daily basis. So on the outside of our building, the call letters KTIS are there, and I just really go, God, I can't believe that I'm here. What a gift. So I grew up in Metro Detroit, and thought, really honestly, coming out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and so I worked for a couple of years, and there was a broadcasting school where you could kind of learn how to do radio that was literally a mile from the house that I grew up in. And so I thought that was interesting. I just, being a kid, It was obviously a different time, but radio was just a big part of my life. And so, well, let me go check this out. Took the tour, loved it. Went through the program, loved it. Got a, they kind of help you find your first job in a town you've never heard of in Michigan, a very small town, and but you get your foot in the door. You start there, and a few years later, I had the chance to be a program director for the first time at another very small station, small city in Michigan. Always wanted to get into Christian radio. Like I was a Christian radio kid, a Christian music kid growing up, and so in 2001, had my first chance to work in Christian radio in Wausau, Wisconsin. We're there for, our family was there for 14 years. My wife, Jenny, and I thought we were just really settled there. And then Northwestern Media called, and I was really grateful they did. So 5 years in Waterloo, Iowa at a Northwestern Media station there. And then in the spring of 2021, the gift of a lifetime was the opportunity to work at KTIS. So started at KTIS here in 2021 as the program director, and been just about a year plus in the station manager seat, and it's been a thrill.
When you talk about your upbringing and this connection you had with Christian music, what is it about music you feel like that helps people connect with their Christian faith?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, growing up, I feel like I was your annoying middle school friend who always had something new, the latest, the newest music that I wanted you to hear. I grew up with music, loving music, a musical family. But it's something that it's deeper than just words. Words put to music takes that message, I think, to the next level. And so when I got into radio, it wasn't necessarily to speak a lot, be that on-air personality that everybody listened to all the time. I just loved sharing music with people. And so the opportunity to not only share music with people, but to share music with people that has a deeper message and points people to Jesus is just a thrill. And so the chance to do that with more people in the Twin Cities, that's just a gift of a lifetime. And so taking that opportunity to take those deeper message, I think that's why you see people tuning in more. There's more to it. There's, it's not just music, it's music with a message of hope.
And it's one where you not only have this devoted listener base that is just listening and consuming and connecting the content, they're supporting you all.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. KTIS from day one has been a listener-supported radio station. In fact, when the station went on the air in 1949, it was actually a group of college students at what is now the University of Northwestern in St. Paul, was Northwestern College at the time, and they gave $1 a week in 1949 to help sign the radio station on. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in 1949, $1 a week is big bucks, especially for college students. And so ever since, a couple of times a year, we have on-air fundraisers where we ask our listeners to consider supporting the radio station. And those can be stressful. Those can be a little scary sometimes. We put ourselves in the hands of our listeners, but we trust that God is guiding and leading the ministry. We always say, God didn't bring us to this point just to leave us here now. So God is good, and our listeners are just so generous, and so that allows us to do all the things that we do every day, and we're really grateful.
That seems like something that would shape your own faith.
Yep.
Is to be in that role. I mean, has it?
Absolutely. It is when the tote board, so to speak, goes to zero and you're starting from scratch, which we do every fundraiser. We kind of look around at each other and say, well, I hope someone calls. I hope someone gives. And they always do. But I think it is an opportunity for us to say, we talked a little bit ago about putting your faith into action, and that's literally an opportunity to do that. And so as those fundraisers go, it's amazing to watch the stories, because people are sharing why the radio station has meant something to them, the encouragement it's been to them, and then the hope gets spread even more as you hear those stories. And so that what we hear every time the phone rings, it's a gift during a fundraiser. And every time someone shares their story about how the ministry has impacted them, it's a gift.
Part of the reason we wanted to have you on in December, especially this time of December, was to talk about Christmas in the Christmas season. Walking in here, you kind of looked like this is a slam of a time.
Yep.
But for a lot of people, the Christmas music could be something that gets them, I'm guessing, to tune into KTIS. What is the format like right now? And what is kind of the approach as a music station to lean into this time of year?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. We love it, though. It is an opportunity. We look at Christmas time as a time where people are maybe the most open that they are all year to hearing a message about Jesus. They are used to singing some of those traditional Christmas carols. And so we see it as an opportunity. Every day of the year, it's our hope to tell people about Jesus. But we see Christmas season as that time where we can open the doors as wide as we can. And we play the Christmas carols that you might sing in church, but then we're also playing, rocking around the Christmas tree and some of those more traditional holiday favorites too. And we see that as a big opportunity. And every year we see at the end, so as we get into January, more people are listening, and we love it because it means more people. We've had that opportunity to tell people about Jesus. So yes, it's your favorite songs, but we're then taking that opportunity to, as much as we possibly can, encourage people to take whatever the next step looks like. So maybe it's the first step. Maybe there's no relationship with Jesus. If that's the case, great. We want to introduce you to him. If you know him as your Savior, what an opportunity to take the next step, whatever that next step is, closer to him. So it's a great opportunity. Like I said, there's a lot going on. We're all exhausted, but we're having a great time doing it.
And I'm sure you're counting that people will put it on their dial,
Yep.
leave it there in the car, and then when the new year starts, it's still on it.
That's the hope. That's the hope, is we can bring them in with something they're familiar with. Because if I can be honest, some of the artists that we play, a lot of the artists we play are not necessarily familiar in a mainstream sense. But then we hope to encourage them through the Christmas season, where we maybe get a preset button. Maybe it's not number one yet, but maybe we get 4 or 5, and then slowly build that relationship as we get into the new year. Because we still want to encourage them when we're kind of playing our regular format again, encouraging people and pointing them to Jesus the rest of the year. So.
And then one of the things that I was looking at that you all are doing this time of year as well is the concept of a Christmas blessing, right? For our listeners and our viewers who aren't familiar, what is that project that you all are doing now? Yeah,
so Christmas blessing is something we've been doing this is our 4th year. And the idea is to, this time of year, people have been going through tough stuff all year. And what could we do at the end of the year when there is a spirit of giving to kind of bless in extraordinary ways? So Christmas blessing is something that actually starts for us in October. And honestly, it starts even before that, planning. But the execution really starts in October, where we're asking people to nominate a family member, a friend, someone who's gone through a difficult season, a difficult year, whether it's a financial issue, maybe a medical situation in their lives where something has gone really wrong. And then while we can't solve all the problems, and we'd love to do that, we just can't do that, what can we do to help them in an extraordinary way? So we have some really generous friends of KTIS who are really passionate about this, and so they help us to fund some of those gifts, the things that we make happen for listeners. And the stories that come out of it are just incredible. Like I said, we can't solve all the problems, but if you can, at this time of year, give them a moment where they can just breathe and say, okay, for this moment, this situation is covered. That's a really special thing to be a part of.
I think for people who might be listening to this, and they've heard you talk a couple of times about faith in action, it might be a foreign concept. I mean, how important to you is doing things, not just talking about them?
Yeah. It is. It's really, like I said, it's really important for what we do every day. It is a way that we can practically show the love of Jesus. So you can talk, and I mean, and that's what we do. We talk, we play songs that tell people about Jesus, but beyond that, what's the next step? What's a bigger way even that we can show that? So if we're helping a family who lost their home in a fire, that's a practical way we can come alongside and show the love of Jesus. If we are collecting school supplies over our summer sticker stops for schools that can't fund those things or provide them for students, or the students can't afford them, that's a way we can come alongside and say, you know what? God loves you, and He has a plan for your life, and we want to help you in this practical way. So as we look to the mission of what we do, it is really, being on the air and encouraging people and pointing them to Jesus. But it's also being out in the community and making sure that that people know practically that yes, Jesus loves you, and there's an opportunity for us to be able to be in the community that way, and we're grateful for that.
Outside of Christmas, we were talking about this a little bit before we got started. It seems like the concept of Christian contemporary music is kind of having a moment at this moment in time, where you look at artists like Jelly Roll or Forrest Frank, or there's a whole number of them that have almost broken into the mainstream. And how is this something you look at, you monitor, and what do you think is going to happen, or how do you adjust, as this continues to happen?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating, year and a half in our format, and it's incredible to watch, an artist like Forrest Frank, who just this week sold out Target Center for a summer show, for an artist like Brandon Lake. You mentioned Jelly Roll and the collaboration that they did. Brandon is kind of crossing over into country as we speak. And, ultimately I look to it as, again, people are looking for hope. And music is a really important part of so many people's lives. And so the opportunity to see, I don't want to say our artists, but contemporary Christian music artists getting more exposure in the mainstream is a thrill for us. You see things like, social media, digital platforms has blurred the lines a little bit for people. And I think that's wonderful, where, say 10, 15 years ago, or a few more when I was growing up, you had your Christian radio station. If you were fortunate, maybe in your city, there was some places that sold CDs, cassettes, vinyl, whatever you were purchasing, but there weren't a lot of other outlets. And so if you weren't in that world, you had no idea it even existed. But now with social media, with Spotify, Apple Music, where they're, kind of bringing all of those things together, it's made it a lot more normal, for lack of a better word, for people to listen to. Yeah, I listen to a little bit of country, I listen to a little bit of rock, and I listen to this Christian guy named Forrest Frank, who really encourages me. So we're thrilled by it. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes over the next couple of years, and I feel like the lines might be blurred even a little bit more. And ultimately, if it gives us the opportunity to tell more people about Jesus, we're thrilled.
What happens next, do you think, for KTIS? Because you're looking at 75 plus years in the community. We're also looking at the way that people consume information. And the fact that we're on a WCCO podcast right now. Let's start with that, right?
Yeah.
But you hear all about, traditional media is going away, and people are getting, wherever they want at their fingertips. So how do you stay relevant as an AM, FM radio station?
For sure. Yeah. We when we talk about our legacy, 75, 76 years in the Twin Cities, something that we talk about with our team is we feel like the time that we have here now is a gift. And to be a part of this team, to be a part of the legacy of KTIS and all that God has done through the ministry over the years. And so what we hope and we pray for is that 75, 76 years down the road, we'll all be long gone, but we hope that the work that we do today enables the ministry to continue to be viable, relevant going forward. So we're in the podcast space. We're in the digital streaming place. We really look at one of the most important stats we look at every month is how many people are listening, not only on their radios, but also on all our streaming platforms. So on our website and on their smart speaker and on our app and all of those things, because that's the future. We're moving in that direction. There could be a day where we literally turn the KTIS transmitter off, and people don't listen that way. And so we're not there yet, but we're building in that direction so that as the future comes, we're not chasing it. We're right on time, and as people are consuming in different ways, we're right there. And I would also say that, again, with the ability to listen to music anywhere, having a great on-air team who connects with people, that's what's going to keep KTIS relevant and keep KTIS strong, pointing people to Jesus, encouraging through the uplifting content that's shared in between the songs. That relationship, I believe, is what will keep KTIS relevant in the Twin Cities.
And I'll be honest, when you talked about the moment walking in and looking up and seeing the letters, I mean, we grew up not too far apart from one another in Southeast Michigan. And I'll never forget the first day walking into WCCO and seeing those letters and realizing we've been around for 75 years. Right. And there's almost an excitement, but then I don't know if you could relate to this, maybe a bit of a fear.
Absolutely.
Of I do not want to be the one who can't keep this up, right? Because you had talked about standing on the shoulders of the people who came before you.
Oh yeah, big time. I literally, my first day on the job in the spring of 2021, probably as I was walking in, okay, Lord, don't let me mess this one up. Don't let me be the one that sinks the ship. And, God is faithful, and he's bigger than any one person who's worked at KTIS or anywhere else. So I'm grateful. We're all grateful for the moment that we have right now. We see it as a great opportunity in a time where people are leaning into hope, where they're searching for a place where they can be encouraged. There's just not a lot of that in the world that we live in today. So the chance to work at 98.5 KTIS and point people to Jesus every day is something that none of us take for granted. And so we work our hardest every day so that, again, when we're long gone, the ministry is still doing the same thing, pointing people to Jesus.
Anything you guys have coming up right now or you're working on that you're really excited that you'd want people to know about?
So Christmas Blessing that we're working through right now is kind of all-consuming. Concerts are coming in the spring. We are working. This is a little bit insider. May happen, may not happen. Okay, but we love the opportunity to encourage people in the community. Something that we receive on a fairly regular basis is communication from prisoners who are encouraged by the ministry of KTIS. And so we're hopeful. It may not be 2026, it may be 2027, but we're hoping to be able to do some concerts with some of the artists that we play in prisons and take that unique opportunity to actually go behind bars to share encouragement with people who don't know Jesus yet, but also our fellow believers who just happen to be in jail at this moment. And so we're exploring that right now. Like I said, I don't know if it's next year or the following, but we would love the opportunity to kind of take our on the street impact into some new directions.
Wow. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's fascinating. I mean, you see the impact, you see the call letters all over town, but to humanize it and to hear the personal stories behind it and just getting a chance to know your why has been super fascinating. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Folks, I just want to say thank you again so much for taking the time to listen to Bigger Than Belief and fit us in what's probably a busy day for you. Again, at the heart of what we're doing here is to use the credibility of WCCO and take something like a layered concept of faith and present it in a way that is manageable and easy to understand, whether you believe in a religion or a faith or you don't. the viewer and the listener are the only reason this show will succeed. So if you like this show, if you've been checking us out these last few weeks, please tell someone about us and share this episode with them if you think that they'll like it. Of course, you can always rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, or like us if you're watching on YouTube. That helps with the algorithms, and that helps continue to promote us. Now, we've got some super exciting episodes coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks. Of course, next Thursday is the Christmas holiday. We're going to have a very special and exciting Christmas guest coming up next Thursday. And beyond that, we're looking at 2026 and a lot of exciting stories coming into the new year. For now, folks, I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time on Bigger Than Belief.